Hello, friends, and welcome to Theosis, the podcast. This is your host, Pastor Tim Nizinski from Waterloo United Methodist Church. Today, I'm focusing in on the letter from Paul to the Galatian church, and he writes these words: "It is fine to be zealous, provided the purpose is good, and to be so always, not just when I am with you." And so whether we're annoyed or frustrated, sometimes people being zealous upsets us. And so today, on today's podcast, I'd like to discuss the marketplace of ideas that we are bombarded with each and every day. And how do we react to those ideas? Whether it's the talking heads on television, it's the stuff that keeps on invading our screens every time we click on something on the internet, or simply that crazy, annoying, frustrating, if you will, flyer that gets stuffed under our windshield wiper when we park somewhere. And so sometimes we're annoyed and frustrated, or we just drive away. There's plenty of reactions to that flyer stuffed under there. Every time we go to the food store, or every time we go to a strip mall, there are these vendors that are vying for our business. Is it the annoyance of having to get back out of the car to pull it off the windshield that upsets us? I mean, do you immediately see it and open the door and then forget to take off your seatbelt like I do and get choked for about 2 or 3 seconds? And they were just too short to reach through the window to get it? Or is it that we don't notice it and we're driving and it starts flapping and no one will let us pull over to stop and get out to fix it, so we're upset about it? Or is it just the anxiety that if it flies off and it lands on the ground, we're littering, and this too is something that upsets us? Yeah, those flyers can be annoying, but they are not the only unwanted, unsolicited information we get hit by each and every day. And maybe sometimes it is maybe a little solicited. I think we're bombarded with zealous people who are zealous about their beliefs. From commercials on television to the constant stuff that darkens our screen, or others are excited about something and they want us to be excited about it too. You see, I purchased this pair of sunglasses online a few months ago. I purchased it because I lost the original pair. And so a pair of prescription sunglasses, so I could see in the sunlight, maybe even read or something outside during the summer, which has finally come. And since then, the pane next to my email is flooded with zealous attempts to invite me to purchase more items from that eyewear store. I get that they're zealous for their products, and sometimes we become zealous for products as well. We even become fanatical, if you will, about things, groups, or even sports teams. And that is where the abbreviated term fan comes from, being fanatical about something. It's easy to see people with their team logos and jerseys on, game day or not, demonstrating their zealous approach to something or someone. Now, the low-hanging fruit for this podcast would be for me to pivot from Paul's words in the letter of Galatians to be zealous about the church. I mean, isn't that my job? And aren't I responsible as the pastor to get people to come to church? I mean, isn't that what quote-unquote vitality is? Isn't that how we decide whether a pastor or clergy are successful? By the number of people who attend? Yeah, I could easily drum up excitement, a fervor, and a lather to go out and purchase crosses and crucifixes, jewelry for an excitement for the team. But doesn't that do the same thing? It's a nice sign and a symbol, and I pray for the reminder of God's love when I see anyone wearing a religious item that strengthens their faith journey. But I think there's more. I think that the words of Paul in this letter were describing how being on one team or another is not the point for the big meaning of life. If you believe in something, are you zealous for it, and is your zealous behavior good? Last summer, I was in Chicago at a Cubs game, and I saw plenty of people with Cardinals jerseys, hats, and team stuff right there at Wrigley. They were zealous for their team. They not only had the gear, but were willing to travel to another city to sit in the stands of another team's field and root with enthusiasm for their favorite team. I have to be honest with you, I was pretty impressed. They were brave. It's not saying that I'm not saying they're bad, not at all. What I'm saying is that Paul is asking if this is for good. I think he's asking for our fever pitch enthusiasm for things that are making the world a better place. If the excitement we have for our team, our group, our church drowns out the very meaning of our faith, our life force, our experience with each other, and with God. I can remember a person who had a Jets hat on, and they were in a subway, and everybody was talking to them about the Jets. And he wrote in the story about how he wasn't a Jets fan at all. As a matter of fact, the hat with the rest of his clothes was at the thrift store and was the only thing that they would give him that day. And so while people would quiz him and were disappointed and upset when he didn't know the coach's name or the score or anything like that, it's interesting that they would have a cross on and maybe not even be able to remember words of the gospel, thoughts of love, inspiration, hope for one another. I think looking at the intention of what we do and what we're enthusiastic about or what we have zealousness for is important. Like I could be zealous about telling people about nutrition because I love them and I want them to be healthy. Or I could do it just to make myself feel knowledgeable. I can want to be successful to create an empire, or I can want to be successful to help my family and donate to charity. Maybe the person who put it there is struggling to feed themselves when I'm talking about this flyer and their families. Maybe they are doing their best to keep their head above water, food on the table, diapers for the baby, or whatever the basic necessities and needs are for the person. They are zealous for good. And so maybe that's who it is that puts that inconvenient, frustrating paper on my windshield. When we're zealous for what is important, it can look very different for different people, but the proof is in the heart of the action. I may not be placing flyers under people's windshield wipers because it's affecting the existence of my family to eat. That's a noble act. When we think about that kind of zealousness, we think about our behaviors and actions toward others. We talk about people and we're concerned with, this person's a vegetarian and this person's a vegan, and it's rather annoying. I hear people talk about, they're on this kind of diet or they're on that kind of diet, or they don't do this or they don't do that, and it's disruptive to their day-to-day lives. Yet in the same manner, maybe their zealousness isn't to be right, isn't to be better than anybody else, isn't to be smarter, but that they see that what they're doing matters in some greater picture, and that they look at animals equal to us, and they look at the water as sacred and holy, and they look at each individual person with value and love and being a child of God. All these things are wrapped up into behaviors and actions that people are zealous about. And so at the same time that we're thinking about this, if I'm reaching out with a deep sense of love to let someone know that their personal spiritual well-being is important to me, I want to be zealous about it. There's this author who once wrote about good. And what he wrote was very interesting. He said that being evil has an unlimited supply of power and strength. Sometimes evil people will go to great lengths to continue to be evil. And he was surprised that people who do good seem to limit themselves. It's almost as if we're afraid to be too good. It's almost as if someone says, you're being too good, being goody-goody two-shoes. And so we relent. No one ever says you're batty-batty evil shoes. I've never heard that one. We cower to evil, and we roll our eyes to good, especially zealous good. And so I want to help people feel at peace and a sense of comfort to live better for themselves and their families, and I want to offer it to them. And then that's what I want to be noble about. That's what I want to be zealous about. And then how do I do it? Where do I demonstrate my zealousness? Where do I demonstrate that nobility? For each of us, it's a different answer. And the situation may be different as well. If you have your basic needs met, are you then zealous for others' basic needs? I have to ask myself, do I need another pair of glasses? Or do I need to be zealous about the relief of pain and suffering of others. And pain and suffering looks different for different people. I have to be honest with you, as a pastor, I counsel and meet with people from all walks of life. And I have to say, I know plenty of wealthy people who are emotionally and spiritually starved, living below the subsistence level, and it is causing them terrible pain and suffering. I know the same for middle-class people, professional people, blue-collar people, poor people. So often, the hunger, the starvation is spiritual. It's emotional. It's the absence of feeling loved. Because I think Paul is saying that if we turn our back on people, if when no one is looking we are not being zealous for good, we are being zealous for not good. When we are struck by messages that may sound appealing and satisfying, they may not be good for us, good for others, good for the world. We're invited to pause. We're invited to be thoughtful about what we're zealous for. When we're zealous for compulsory consumption, it's not good. When we're zealous for a hierarchy that keeps us on top and others below, can't see it as good. When we're zealous for something that hurts our bodies, minds, and souls, it just can't be good. When we're zealous to be thoughtful and moral in our purchases and consumption so that there is plenty to share, we are a part of the good. When we make healthy and wholesome decisions about our bodies in the present and the future, and that the repercussions that we don't see now need to be good for us, for our loved ones, we're part of the good. When we're compassionate for others, compassionate for their equality and equity, and stand for the same treatment and expectations for and from others, that's something to be zealous about because it's good. We, like the people who heard this announcement 2,000 years ago, have minds and bodies, hearts and souls that can discern the good. Today, may you be thoughtful about living in a way that makes your body, your mind, and your souls healthy for others and for you. That you're zealous for that good. And may you be thoughtful today about working for justice through peace and love. Zealous for good. And when we live close to God and close to good, we experience that theosis that we are always searching for. I bid you farewell this day. This is Pastor Tim Nizinski from Waterloo United Methodist Church. Please remember, God loves you, and so do I.